Hey everybody, Jennifer from Scrapping Under the Influence. I am back with my last project using the Doodlebug Pumpkin Spice collection. I'm down to just scraps that are going to be good for cards, should I get around to making them. But I just wanted to share this with you guys really quickly. The tutorial will follow after the walkthrough. So on the front here, I've just got one of the stickers that I've backed on the Artisan cardstock. And then I've got some of the odds and end pieces, which when I made this, I started from this part and worked my way back, built that whole piece off the book, and then put it on where I wanted it. And then I've got, you know, little sunflowers and a little squirrel there. Inside, I've got stacked pockets that I've taken those little journaling cards that I've just put them on a piece of the Artisan, and then used my We Are Memory Keepers tab punch to make that little tab. Used my stickers from the sticker sheet. There's three little, or some of the little word stickers that I use there to just add that on those tabs. And then those all slide down in like so. I do have a magnet here, and I did leave these top and bottom blank so you could put pictures or journaling or whatever there. Another one of the journaling cards that I have again just matted on to the linen Artisan with one of the stickers on the tab. On this side, I've got little belly bands so you could stick some pictures or whatever underneath there. This opens up like so, and then like this, and again just lots of room for pictures. Got another one of the journaling cards on a little tabbed insert there. This, we've just got angled pockets, good place to stuff some extra pictures, and you know, if you've got tickets from something that you attended or what have you, you know, it's a good place to put it. Another one of the journaling cards on the tabbed pull out. So here, since this doesn't have cut-aparts in the tradition other than the journaling cut-aparts, I did just make my own little mat here. I used one of the border stickers, border strips from the border sheet, and just put that on one of the petite prints. And that holds this closed. I did leave this top one blank for pictures or journaling, and that holds that closed. I did do a very small waterfall. So I just used, again, border strips that I had left over on the bottom there, and then right here, because I got part of this crooked, and that's hiding where I screwed it up. So there you go. That's, you know, there's always ways to fix and hide things that you might not be happy with. So close that back up, and again, our last little journaling insert there. And then here I've just got two pockets, and then on this side, this just has another magnet, and then opens up, and you've got lots of room to put pictures or recipes or anything really that you want in there. And then I've just got the plain stripe on the back, and there you have it. So I hope you like this. The tutorial will start right here in just a second. If you end up making this, please share it on Scrapbookers of Country Craft Creations, and also on my page, Scrapping Under the Influence. Here's your tutorial. Okay, so for our narrow folio, we need 2 pieces of chipboard 4.5 by 8.5, and 1 piece 1.5 by 8.5. To wrap these, for the covers, you need 2 pieces of cardstock that are 6.5 by 10.5. Let me grab my little pick here to get my backing off. Okay, and I've got my 1-inch spacers from Country Craft Creations. There's my second one. Okay. And again, 1-inch spacers. And then our spine, we need a piece that is 10.5 by 4.5. And that's where I'm going to switch my side spacer to the 1.5-inch spacer. Okay. I think I just put that down just a tiny bit crooked, but that's okay. It's going to be fine. So we are going to go ahead and fold and burnish our cardstock around our chipboard on all 3 pieces. Okay, so I'm going to grab my scissors. We are going to cut out the square on all 3 pieces on each corner. And then we're going to fold that in and make sure that we've cleaned up our corners so we don't have anything hanging over. So this is technically my 5th project with the Doodlebug Pumpkin Spice. I did the banner last night and the little Thanksgiving place cards, and I did a couple of slimline cards this afternoon, and I have gotten all of that, including the album that I posted on Friday, out of one paper pack, 1 set of the odds and ends, and that's it. Oh, well, and then the petite prints. So once you add those petite prints to the Doodlebug papers, you can really stretch a package of that paper and get quite a few projects out of it. Which is always nice. Okay, I didn't check my corners on this one, so we'll do that really quickly. And depending on how this one goes, once I mat it, we might actually get a few more cards out of it. We'll have to see. So, all right, so we've got that matted. I'm now going to come around with my 1/4" score tape, so I get the end to come up here, and I'm going to go around the 2 cover pieces on all 4 sides, and on the spine piece just on the top and bottom. There's, well, almost one down. Right. So now I'm going to grab my glue, and I probably should have cleaned this, but I didn't, so hopefully I don't have to stop and clean it. But if I do, that wouldn't be anything new, as we all know. Okay. So I am just getting the backing off of my score tape. We're going to do our glue along the chipboard. A little squiggle on the inside there. And up and over. Okay. There's our spine piece. Cover pieces, we're going to do the exact same thing, only we're doing the cover pieces on all 4 sides. Okay. And again, it's just down along the chipboard, and then in between the chipboard and the tape. And it doesn't have to be a ton. Alright. Probably, since I'm working with lighter cardstock, probably should have cleaned my mat off, because Lord knows what's on it. But I didn't, so we'll just cross our fingers I don't get this all messed up. Okay, so now I'm going to take my spine piece and my bone folder, and I'm going to just work that cardstock along that chipboard edge. And on the lighter cardstock, it is harder to, there we go. You can see from one side to the other how there's a distinct kind of bump now. That's what we want on both sides, because that's going to help us when we put our covers on. So I'm going to put some score tape along the bottom edge and about 1/8 of an inch in from the spine. I'm going to miter that just a tiny bit because that doesn't look like it's... There we go. Okay. Alright, so good side up. We're going to get the backing off our score tape. And then we are going to put glue in between the score tape. And I'm going to use my finger. I'm going to start on top of the chipboard, line this up at the top, and just pull it across till I feel it fall off the edge of that chipboard, and then I'm going to put it down. Okay, do the same thing on this side. Over and down. Then we're just going to burnish on this side, and we're just kind of pushing this spine, just kind of working that down in between. And then I have a piece that is actually 5.5, which is probably a little wider than it needs to be, but it's fine, by 8 3/8. And I do have my score tape on the back of this one as well. And we're going to use that for our reinforcement. So we're just going to center that, leave it just a hair from the top, put it down, and then I will take my bone folder and I will work the paper into that crease as I fold this side up. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Okay, and there you go. There's your cover. Kind of a wonky corner there, but that's okay. It's just fine. Okay, I am going to gather up all of our pieces for the inside, and I'll be right back. All right, let's start with our hinge. Our hinge is going to be 8 1/4 by 4 3/4. there's going to be a 1/4 inch gusset in between the pages. So you're going to score it 1/2 inch, 1 inch, 1 1/4 inch, 1 3/4, 2 1/4, 2 1/2, 3, 3 1/2, 3 3/4, 4 1/4. So that's going to give you 4 hinges and 3 gussets. For our pages, you need 4 pieces that are 8 1/4 by 4 and 4 pieces that are 9 1/4 by 4. The 8 1/4 by 4 we're not going to do anything to, so you can set those aside. The 9 1/4 by 4, we are going to score 1/2 inch on each end. So with the 9 1/4 across the top of the scoreboard, score it 1/2 inch, turn all the way around, 1/2 inch again. You're going to repeat this on all 4 of those 9 1/4 by 9 1/4 by 4 inch pieces. Sorry for the voiceover. I had an audio issue with what I had uploaded originally that thank goodness somebody told me, because yeah. So we're having to kind of go through here and hopefully remember what I actually did. So let's go ahead and fold our hinge. So we're going to fold first 1/2 inch gusset over, burnish that down, and then we're going to add glue in between. Make sure you don't go over the next score line with your glue. Put that down, burnish that down good. Make sure everything's nice and stuck down. I'm going to skip the 1/4 inch, go to the next 1/2 inch, and fold again, and burnish, and then glue that down. And again, burnish that down. Okay, then I'm going to fold back on that 1/4 inch gusset to get our hinges for that page, or those 2 hinges to stand up. Go to the next 1/2 inch score area, fold and burnish, and add in the glue. I was having an issue with that. It was like, I think my glue ran more than it should have, and it didn't want to bend. Or I didn't score it well enough. It really could be either one at this point. Okay, so I'm just fixing where I had the glue run, kind of had to fix my hinge and my gusset. Okay, now we're back on that 3rd hinge. So again, you're going to fold at the 1/2 inch, fold and burnish, and get your glue. Okay. All right, fold that back against itself so that you get it to stand up. So at that point we have 3 of our hinges with our 1/4 inch gusset in between. We're going to go to our last one, fold and burnish again, and then get our glue in. Okay, now I have matted the center section of my book there, so my spine. So that's going to be underneath where we're going to put our hinge down. You're just going to center this top to bottom, left to right when you glue it down. Just making sure it's good and stuck down, that it's even, that everything's sitting right, making sure that's good and stuck down before I do anything else. Now we are going to take our page bases that we scored, that the 9 1/4 piece that's scored at each end. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and miter the corners from the score line out on all 4 of those pieces, and I do have them just stacked together. It doesn't have to be perfect, it just makes it go on there a little bit better. And still mitering. Or maybe I didn't stack them. I don't know what I did. It was late. That's the reason for my audio issue. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to fold that tab in, get one of your 8 1/4 by 4 inch pieces, line it up on top, and make sure that it's lined up straight, and then you'll go ahead and glue one end. Get that other end good and burnished down, and set it aside. And then repeat that with the other 3 pages. So again, you're going to fold and burnish your first score line. You're just going to line the 8 1/4 by 4 inch piece up on top. Make sure it's aligned side to side, that it's not hanging over the bottom. The easiest way to do that is to kind of put it down on the table and then just burnish that down. And that does give you just a minute or so to kind of get it situated. And then fold the other tab and burnish it just so it's ready to go. Okay, 2 more to go. Okay, and again, just lining that up, making sure everything's lined up side to side, that it's going on there straight, because Lord knows I am really good at putting stuff on crooked. Like, you guys really have no idea. Okay, again, fold and burnish. Okay, last one. Okay. All right, so now we're going to put these onto our hinge, and I should have checked them before I put them into the book, because my hinge ended up being just like about a 1/16 of an inch too long, so they weren't going to go on right. So what I ended up having to do was miter the corners of my hinge, which I'm going to show you here in just a second.
And that was just, you know, that could have been avoided by cutting that hinge just a hair under 8 1/4, which I wasn't thinking about it because I haven't been putting pages on with that opening to the outside lately. It's all been openings to the top. And in that case, the way they go on, it doesn't really matter. You don't need to account for that little bit of space where the paper is going to kind of go over, you know, needs to fold over smoothly. So I apologize for that. I will try to actually get a note in here when I finish re-editing this to make sure that you guys don't run into the same problem that I did. All right, so those are fixed now. And you can go ahead and put these on. Oh wait, now I guess I'm still mitering. Just kidding. So I'm going to show you 2 different ways to put them on your hinge. Quite honestly, the second way I do it is probably easier than the first way. The second way involves going ahead and gluing down the top hinge, or I'm sorry, that top tab. So you basically have both your top and bottom closed up on those pages. The other option, this is the first option. So what I've got is I'm just sliding that on, getting it on, making sure it fits, and then gluing one side to the hinge and then gluing it closed and gluing the other side down. It had been long enough since I'd done a page this style that quite honestly, I had kind of forgotten what a pain they are to do this way. So even though I'm telling you on this first one to do it that way, don't do it. Wait for just a second till I get to the second page and do it that way instead, because doing it this way, they tend to slide. And you don't want that to happen. Okay, so I've got it down. Let's see how I'm then coming back in here and having to glue down that tab, down the tab, down the tab. I'm sorry, the hinge, and then on the tab, and then get it put over and lined up. Not a fan of how that was working. So if you can do it the other way that I'm going to show here in just a second, that would be my recommendation. All right, so in this second one, I'm gluing the entire page. So I've got that whole little kind of tunnel almost. And then just putting glue on one side of my hinge. Okay. Now I guess I'm doing it on both sides. Just kidding. Both sides of your hinge. This is why I hate voiceovers, and I try really hard to not have to do them. Okay, so we're going to kind of bend that out, slide that down over the hinge. Make sure it goes down on both sides all the way down. Might take a little bit of kind of wrestling with it here. You see me kind of leaning in there. And yes, I am wearing a shirt that says I Heart Doodlebug, so just in case you saw that. All right, folding it over, which is going to cause it to pull up just a tiny bit. It's fine, that's what you want it to do. And then just burnishing that down. So I think I do the other 2 pages like that as well, just because it is a little bit easier. And I'd forgotten because I don't usually do pockets of this size that open to the side like that. So it really hasn't been an issue lately. But the reason that we're having them open on the side like that is because of the journaling cards that are with the Doodlebug collection that I'm using, that honestly I've been kind of baffled on what to do with those. They're cute. They're great, like, I guess, for scrapbook pages. You know, if you're just doing layouts and you want to journal on them and then tuck it in there somewhere. Mini albums, you know, you could use them for the same thing, but that's not usually what I want a page like that cuts apart for. So the reason that we're leaving this open to the side like that is because those journaling cards, I put them on some of the linen artisan like that I cut a tab onto with my We Are Memory Keepers tab punch board. So with that, you know, I've kind of given them a purpose, so to speak. And, you know, you'll have seen that on the walkthrough. I did show those. But that's what I did with that whole little sheet full of those little journaling cards. So, okay, we're getting ready to put the last one on here. Okay, glue on both sides again. Pop that open, slide it down on the hinge, and then push it down and over. All right. Aha, there are my little inserts that I was going to show you how we're going to do that, because they are going to slide, and that's the reason for the sizing on this album, is so that those will slide in to those pages. And then I ended up just using some of the word stickers that are on the sticker sheet with the collection on the tabs on those little pullouts. So that worked quite nicely, actually. Okay, let's set those aside again, and we are going to work on the front inside cover. So let's grab the scoreboard, and I did do this one a little bit differently. So rather than going through and scoring everything, and then after every piece is scored, then going back and putting them in the book, I just went ahead and scored them and then put them in as I did it. And all I can say to that is that's thanks to the drinks that I was having before I decided I was going to go ahead and record this on Saturday night. So there you go. It's okay to scrap under the influence. It is not okay to record tutorials under the influence. That, and it was late and I was tired because I'd been up really late the night before, and you know, excuses. So we're going to miter all four of these three of these. The 3 pockets are 5 1/4 by 3 1/4. You're going to score 1/2 inch on each end. You are not going to score on the bottom. We are just going to do a little bead of glue on the bottom to close that up, because we don't need them to open super far, because all that's going in these is just those little 3x4 journaling card inserts. So I'm folding and burnishing and then just putting them down on my inside cover there to make sure they fit. And then the third one is going to go across them, centered in the middle there. And it kind of had really a cool effect that I don't think I'd really kind of thought through it the time I planned it. I really like how it came out. But okay, so we're going to put that down all the way to the top edge and the outside edge. You are doing the opening towards the inside of the book. You could always slide these more to the inside and have that opening go towards the outside. It's entirely up to you. And again, 5 1/4 by 3 1/4, scored at 1/2 inch on each end with the 5 1/4 at the top of the scoreboard. Okay. And then we're lining the other one up right next to, flush with the pocket next to it. And then this one is going to get centered on top. So it is its own separate pocket. It just gives it, I don't know, it just looked kind of cool when I was finished with it. Especially once it's matted, it looks really neat. So, all right, got the little bead of glue across the bottom. And then again, I'm just eyeballing it and getting it centered as I can. If you want to use a ruler and center yours, by all means, go right ahead. I'm just going to eyeball it. Okay, page 1, we have 2 flaps. They are 4 5/8 by 4. Okay, so move my book, grab my scoreboard. So with the 4 5/8 side at the top of the scoreboard, I get those picked up. And again, they're 4 5/8 by 4, and you do need 2 of them. You're going to score at 1/2 inch with the 4 5/8 at the top of the scoreboard. Okay, once you have those scored, let's see, then I got smart, started using my little score pal mat. Once you have those scored, go ahead and miter those corners. So these are going to go one on the top, one on the bottom of the front of page 1. And then I did use a magnet and a cut apart to keep these closed. And when I said cut aparts, I'm talking about the little 2, they're not quite 2.5, they're like 2 3/8 by 2 3/8, roughly. And they're really cute. In fact, we used them on the fall banner. And I actually had quite a few left that would be great on cards. But I'm going to use one of those with a magnet to hold these 2 flaps closed because they do meet in the middle of that page. And this one really does go together fairly quickly, which is nice. Okay, got both of those down. We're going to go to the back side of page 1, and I've got 2 small belly bands. These are 5 inches by 1 inch. With the 5 inch across the top, we're going to score it at 1/2 inch, turn it all the way around, 1/2 inch again. So there we go, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch. And then I'm going to go ahead and miter the corners on these just a tiny bit. Okay, we're going to fold and burnish on our score lines on both pieces so that they're ready to go on the book. And these are sized at 1 inch so that you can use one of those way cute border strips from the border page in the collection. So I'm going to put these down about 1.5 inches from the top of the page, or put one of them 1.5 inches from the top, 1.5 inches from the bottom, roughly. And really, you can just kind of eyeball this and put it where you think it looks good. It's entirely up to you. Because it's really just a spot to be able to tuck pictures under. If you wanted to, you know, make a little booklet or a little insert of some kind to put under there, you could absolutely do that as well. Okay. On the next page, we've got 2 flaps. The first flap is 8 1/4 by 4 1/2. With the 4 1/2 at the top of the scoreboard, we're going to score this at 1/2 inch. The other flap is 4 by 3 3/4. So this is literally the leftover that you have when you cut the first flap. That one you're going to score at 1/2 inch with the 3 3/4 at the top. We're going to go ahead and miter the corners. Okay, and then fold and burnish both pieces. Okay, the long flap we are going to glue down towards on the outside of the front of page 2. And it's going to go all the way to the outside. Okay. Our flap is going to get glued down on the inside, but it's going to fold down over the large flap to help hold it closed. So you just want to put it on there, make sure it lines up okay, that you've measured it correctly, and if you used the scrap that's left after you cut the initial piece to 8 1/4, you'll be just fine. So what I did here is I just kind of set it over that flap and then push the whole thing over and burnish that down. Okay, so see how that holds that down? There you go. Simple, simple. So on which that probably was a hair over where it should have been as far as the width when I cut it, but that's okay. All right, so next we're going to have angled pockets that are going to face each other on the back of page 2 and the front of page 3. So I have a piece that is 7.5 by 4. Erase my notes off of there. So what I'm going to do is I am going to measure up 1 inch on the bottom corner. If I can get my ruler going the right direction. Clearly I can't. Okay, so 1.5 inches, and make a little tick mark. I'm going to turn it all the way around and do the same thing. So again, 1.5, make a little tick mark. And then what we're going to do is draw a line across connecting those, because that's where you're going to cut your angle for your pocket. That's what I'm trying to say. And then I just went all the way around and scored at 1/2 inch on all 4 sides. Okay. When you go to put this down on the page, you're actually only going to fold in 2 of the 3 score lines that are going to be on the cut page, but that's fine because once you mat it, you won't know that there's another score line under there. So basically, I'm lining up that line I drew between the 2 1.5 inch marks and cutting. So then I've got pockets that we're going to put down. So that side right there, that score line, you're just going to leave that side of the short side of the pocket. So the 1.5 inch side of the pocket, you're going to leave open. You're going to miter through your corner there, turn it over, and start where the score line starts on the top and miter that. You're not going to do anything with that score line, so you just want to miter that bottom corner. So that's what you should have once you've got everything mitered. And you're going to do the same thing on the opposite one. So for that top corner, so one's going one way, one's going the other. That top corner, you're going to start at your score line and do a really deep cut down. And then go ahead and fold and burnish the bottom and the outside edge. You don't want to fold and burnish that little short edge because you want to leave that open. And then this is the point too at which you're going to check before you glue it down on that top corner that your tab that you're gluing it down with is not hanging over where you see it when you put it down. Granted, you're gonna mat underneath there eventually, and you wouldn't necessarily see it, but just to make it cleaner, you do want to go ahead and make sure that that's nice and clean at top. You'll see what I'm talking about here in about 2 seconds. So I went ahead and folded, and I've got just a tiny bit that I can see. So I'm just going in and making that miter a little bit more aggressive. Okay, fold and burnish again. The bottom and the side, not the long side, not the short side. Okay. And put that down. All right, so the back side of page 3, we have a flap and a pocket. So our flap is 4 inches by 6.5 inches, scored at 1/2 inch with the 6.5 at the top of the scoreboard. Then we've got a little pocket that we're going to use. That the pocket's going to be 4 by 2 3/4. We're only scoring that at 1/2 inch on the bottom of the pocket. We're going to glue the sides down flat. We're going to miter those corners. And what I did here, so when you go to put it in the book, go ahead and put your pocket down first. So you're just going to fold over where you've got that little tab on the bottom. And then I did glue on the tab and then just a very thin line on each side. Because again, this is just holding a little card just to keep that flap closed. And it doesn't need to expand and hold like a whole bunch of stuff. You're not going to put a bunch of stuff in there. That's not the intention. So what you want to do now, and I did not do this when I put this in here, I actually ended up trimming it off after the fact. Kind of dry fit this before you glue it down and see where it touches the top of your pocket. If it goes over your pocket, you are going to need to trim a little bit off. And I think I ended up taking like 1/8 of an inch off of this because I didn't think to check that prior to sticking it down in the book. So, and I think on my original audio I said something to that effect, but that's okay. So just double check that, make sure you'll be able to slide something in there. So the front of page 4, we've got a small waterfall. You need 5 pieces that are 5.5 by 4. You're going to score all 5 of those at 1/2 inch with the 5.5 inch side at the top of the scoreboard. So again, 5.5 by 4. And then those are just going to be, typical waterfall build, just the way you always do. So these do not get mitered. I'm going to go ahead and fold and burnish all 5 of those pieces. Whew, dang it, I'm tired. I'm yawning over here. Okay, folding and burnishing, folding and burnishing. All right, so this one I did actually close with a ribbon, so I'm going to go ahead and put my ribbon down before I put down my waterfall. If you wanted to add a little band that comes up and closes it with a magnet, you absolutely could do that. In this case, I didn't want to do that on this one. So I've got just a little bit of score tape, and I'm going to stick my ribbon down onto. And I have no idea where this ribbon came from. I think I got it in a swap last fall, but it was just like the right color for this. And I'm just kind of eyeballing how much I need. It's better to have too much than not enough, and then you can't tie whatever it is you're trying to tie. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, because you're at the bottom of your waterfall, you are going to be matting over this, and so you don't want your pattern paper to kind of pull up as that ribbon gets pulled on over time. So we're going to do something. We're going to do a little reinforcement piece. So I'm going to put my ribbon down. And then I'm just going to take a tiny scrap, like 1 inch wide, about a 2 by 3 inch, or I'm sorry, 2 by 1 inch scrap of my cardstock. And I'm just going to put that down over my ribbon about 1/8 of an inch up from the bottom of the page, about where your pattern paper would start, just to reinforce that ribbon. So it's got artisan that it's pulling against as opposed to your pattern paper, because by the time you get your pattern paper down on top of that, you're not going to have a problem with that ribbon pulling up your paper. So now I'm flipping it upside down so I can put my waterfall in, and of course you're going to line that up all the way to the outside edge of that page and push it down. And if you've done any of mine, I cannot do waterfalls without them being upside down. I can't get them lined up right. I can barely get them lined up right doing it this way, let alone trying to do it with them facing me. So, yeah, this just seems to work better for me. Okay, there's our 3rd page. And the matting on the waterfall, I matted the front page and I matted the bottom underneath the very last one. And then I just used border strip on each one of those flaps of the waterfall. So what you end up with doing it that way is space on all of those for 4 by 4 pictures. All right, so let's go ahead and tie this off. You can watch me attempt to tie a bow with my fingernails that are way too dang long because this girl made a mess of them on Friday. And I just haven't decided if I'm going to go pay somebody to fix them or if I'm just going to take a nail file to them and they can just look like garbage for another week and a half. But that's okay. All right, so the back side of page 4, we are going to do 2 pockets. So I need 2 pieces that are 5 by 4. We are going to score these at 1/2 inch on 3 sides. So 2 short sides, 1 long side. Okay. We're going to miter. In mitering the pockets, we are going all the way through on the bottom corner through the where the two lines, score lines cross on those, because it just means there's less bulk to those pockets when you put them down. Okay. So I'm going to fold and burnish. And this is where you can check and see if you've mitered enough on those bottom corners, because if you have, you shouldn't really have anything overlapping. And then I'm just putting these one on top of the other, leaving about 1/8 of an inch in between them on this back page. You could put one part way up and then, put it about mid-page and then put the other one on partially on top of the bottom of it. I decided I didn't want to do that. So when I glue down my pockets, I always glue down the bottom tab first so I can get everything lined up, and then I will come back and glue my sides. I think it just makes them a little bit easier to put down rather than trying to do the glue on all 3 sides at once. So again, glue on the bottom tab. Then 1/8 of an inch gap in between them. And put that down. And there we go. Okay. All right, so back inside cover, we're going to do a couple of flaps that they're going to have a magnet. The bigger flap is 4 3/4 by 8 1/4. With the 4 3/4 at the top of the scoreboard, we're going to score at 1/2 inch. The small flap is 2.5 by 8 1/4, and again, scored at 1/2 inch with the 2.5 at the top of the scoreboard. So I'm going to go ahead and miter both of those. Okay. The big flap is going to go all the way to the outside edge. Of your cover. And just kind of center, because it doesn't go all the way top to bottom. So you're just going to kind of want to center that up on that outside cover. Because I did keep it the same height as the other pages. Okay. And then this one is going to go in close to the spine. And what I did here was just kind of dry fit it to make sure it was going to line up the way I wanted it to make sure that I have enough space. And then I'm going to go ahead and get the glue on my tab. And I'm actually going to fold that over so I can line this up exactly. Okay, and put it down. And then I did end up putting a magnet on this to hold it closed. You absolutely could put ribbon if you wanted to. If you're going to do ribbon, you do need to do the ribbon prior to putting those flaps down, but because I'm intending on using a magnet there, I didn't. So there we go. There's our book.
Okay, so I am finished with the last little book out of the entire Doodlebug collection and the matching petite prints. This is literally all I've got left. I've used probably 3/4 of the odds and ends, and really with what I've got here with the solids and the patterns and, you know, little scraps and whatnot, I really could make quite a few cards if I felt motivated to do so. Which at the moment I don't. So I just wanted to show you very quickly. So you'll see this front piece is really popped up. So to do something like that, and this is where the Doodlebug stuff just works perfectly, I actually build it from the bottom up. So it's not, or I'm sorry, from the front down. That's what I'm trying to say. So I take my, in this case, this was a sticker that I've backed on some of my linen cardstock. And then I went, okay, what's my next layer? Okay, what's my next layer behind that? What's the one behind that? What's the one behind that? And then just build it that way. And then you don't have, it's not, you can get it, it's easier to position it that way and kind of get it to have the look that you want it to have. So inside, it's still fairly simple. Again, I was working with, you know, partial sheets of paper and whatnot. And it just came out really cute. So if you guys make this, of course, I want to see it. Share it on Scrapbookers of Country Craft Creations or on my page, Scrapping Under the Influence. Thanks.